And if I told you once, I ain't gonna tell you twice. Or maybe I will. Who knows? It depends on how I feel that day. Salute all my real ones. I don't feel like it. Yeah, look, bro. We got how to know if it's aliens. I'll tell you, like, you know what I'm saying? I'll literally come on here and be like, it's aliens. You know what I'm saying? The end. Catch you on the flip side, or RCP salute. Nah, aliens. I know a lot of people are going off because the government declassified UFOs. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see, like, cracks in the matrix all the time. I'm saying, open your eyes, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's literally right there in your face. Like you think Dennis Rodman is really Dennis Rodman? Come on, bro. Anyway, before we get into this video, like button, subscribe button, notification bell, press those. Let's go.
We follow one rule on space-time.
Right.
It's never aliens.
You see, look.
But every rule has an exception, and this rule is no exception, because it's never aliens until it is. So, is it aliens yet? "45 years ago, a pair of small Earth spacecraft inserted themselves into orbit around Mars. Each dropped landing craft which descended to opposite sides of the planet. This was the Viking mission, the first successful Martian landing by the US. The landers performed multiple experiments to investigate the Martian soil for signs of living microbes. In one of these, samples were injected with a nutrient solution laced with radioactive carbon. The idea of this labeled release experiment was that living microbes would metabolize the nutrients and emit radioactive gases. Stunningly, both landers reported positive results, 4,000 kilometers apart from each other. As a control, identical soil samples were first heated to 160 Celsius, in which case no response was observed, as you might expect if the microbes had been fried. It seemed like a slam dunk detection of life on Mars, and yet no other Mars mission has managed to detect clear biosignatures. And today, the scientific consensus is that the labeled release experiment did in fact not detect life. It seems that every few years, for at least the past half a century, we get another tantalizing hint of the existence of alien life. But they all seem to fizzle out. At least we never get the grand announcement that this particular evidence of aliens turns out to be aliens. So what happened to all...
One of my exes, like the way she used to talk and the things that she would do, like, you know what I'm saying? When I think about it, like, the way she used to whip up mac and cheese, like, I'm like, bro, you using the powder on the macaroni? Like, who uses the... Yeah, I think she's definitely a candidate. You know who you are, too.
All of this evidence are...
Who puts powder? Like, the powder, like...
Any of them still credible? And what's it going to take for scientists to decide that any given line of evidence adds up to proof? Or are scientists just too skeptical for that to ever happen? Let's start, or rather continue, with our quest to find evidence of primitive life in our solar system. The Viking mission...
Yo, real quick. Which one is that? The beard or the hair? Cause like, I'm like, what is it? Is it gray or is it brown, dog? Pick a color.
Labeled release experiment sure looked like it had detected life, except for one major difference. After the initial detection of these supposed microbe metabolites, additional shots of nutrients were injected. Now, when this is done with Earth samples, new bursts of gas are always observed as the microbes wake up and start feeding, but not so in the Martian samples. Subsequent injections of nutrients yielded no response. This came to be interpreted as evidence that the initial reaction was not biological, but rather purely chemical. And NASA's 2006 Phoenix lander found a possible culprit, perchlorate in the Martian soil. This toxic chemical, or its byproduct hypochlorate, would be expected to break apart the organic compounds in the nutrients, producing gases that mimicked metabolites of biological activity. And while microbes should multiply after feeding,
I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know if I believe all of this, because I remember one day I took a pull of some weed and little green men started coming out, jumping down. I was on the stoop, and they started coming out the building and jumping off the roof. So, like, I don't know what y'all talking about, but, like, to me, that's scientific, because I saw them with my eyes. It doesn't matter that I took a pull of some weed. All I know is that little green men started jumping out the building. They came up to me, they dapped me up, and kept it moving. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I know. I ain't gonna say nothing else. I think I pressed the wrong button. My fault, my G.
A simple chemical like this would be depleted, explaining the lack of response after the first nutrient injection. Hypochlorite should also be destroyed at high temperatures, explaining the non-detection in the control sample. Let's look at some of the other hints in our solar system. Still on Martian life, whatever happened to the supposed fossil microbe found in that Martian meteorite? In 1996, scientists discovered elongated mineral structures that looked for all the world like fossilized bacteria, but embedded deep in a Martian meteorite that had been found in Antarctica. The scientists also found magnetite, a common byproduct of microbial metabolism, which at the time had no known abiotic source. This meteorite was special in other ways too. It had formed over 4 billion years ago, back when Mars had liquid water. In fact, its geology required the presence of liquid water. This was a compelling enough hint at life that Bill Clinton made a special TV announcement. So why don't we count this as the discovery of life on Mars? Well, over the past couple of decades, researchers have shown how these same structures, the fossils and the magnetite, can be produced by the sort of chemical reactions that you might have expected to have happened in this meteorite. It's also difficult to rule out contamination by Earth microbes. After all, the thing had been buried in Antarctica for millions of years before geologists cut it open. No one has ever demonstrated convincingly that these are not Martian fossils, but they don't need to. When you're talking about the discovery of alien life, the burden of proof rests very heavily on the shoulders of the discoverer. It has to be implausible that the result could be anything but life. And that's just not the case with the would-be Martian fossils. And this is the same reason that we are forced to reject, or at least be very cautious about, all prior claims of evidence of alien life. For example, the occasional spikes in methane detected by the Curiosity rover on Mars could be microbe farts, but could also be any one of a number of geochemical processes. The red patterning on the surface of Jupiter's moon Europa could be slime colonies, but could also be rust. This brings us to Venus. In September 2020, astronomers reported the signature of phosphine in the upper atmosphere of Venus from radio data taken with ALMA, the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array. Phosphine is a common byproduct of biological activity on Earth, but it was very difficult to come up with a non-living source of so much of it on Venus. This may have generated the most excitement since the Martian meteorite thing. Now, we went into the details soon after the announcement, so today I just want to answer the question, what happened to this result? Well, as you can imagine, for such a huge claim, it sparked very careful scrutiny and analysis. A few independent teams found issues with the original data processing, and their new analysis found little to no phosphine on Venus. The original team also redid their analysis and now claim a 7-fold lower abundance of phosphine than in their original report, placing it at the level of a tentative detection. So, the phosphine hasn't quite gone away, but even if it is actually present, it's now much easier to explain with non-biological processes. Once again, the burden of proof is on the new claim, and the evidence just doesn't cut it. There's a relevant quote from Sherlock Holmes on this point. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
Occam's razor. The simplest explanation tends to be the right one. It's aliens, bro.
Truth. Now, there's a certain Harvard astrophysicist who's fond of saying this in reference to his many claims that some new astrophysical phenomenon might be aliens. And the statement is logically correct. Improbable does beat impossible in terms of likelihood. But it's exactly this illusion of logic that makes the Sherlock argument so misleading. and by far the most common cause of false declarations that it must be aliens because it couldn't be anything else. The universe is weirder than we can ever imagine, and it's arrogant to assume that you've thought of every possible non-alien phenomenon that could lead to a particular observation. A great example of this is Oumuamua, that weird object that flew through our solar system a few years back. Oumuamua appeared as a very faint pulsing reddish spot that slung around the inner solar system just fast enough.
Bro, there's nothing you can tell me, bro. That was a shit. Like, people, like, yeah, like, look at that. Like, it looks like a straight up blunt flying through the goddamn solar system, and it went to the sun to get lit because there was going to be a big ass alien that was going to pick it up and smoke it. You know what I'm saying? 2 + 2 is 17, dog. Damn, this
that it most likely fell from interstellar space. Its pulsing was interpreted as being due to it being an elongated object tumbling. Besides its interstellar origin, the weirdest thing about it was that it appeared to accelerate on its way out of the solar system, in exactly the same way that comets do due to outgassing. Ices vaporizing in the sun's radiation and acting like jets. In the case of comets, this also results in the classic comet tails, but Oumuamua had no tail. There was a claim by a Harvard astrophysicist that the most likely explanation for Oumuamua is that it's an alien artifact, in particular a light sail, probably a broken one. Now, we covered all of this before, both the discovery of Oumuamua and a clarification that there are huge problems with the alien hypothesis. But why not aliens if there's no accepted natural explanation? Well, the answer is simple. Because there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. And, lo and behold, since the publication of our video, a far more reasonable explanation has been proposed. I'm actually going to direct you to Anton Petrov's excellent channel for a really clear, in-depth analysis. But in short, Oumuamua is very well explained as a shard of an extrasolar ice world similar to Pluto, ejected into interstellar space by an impact. Pluto also has a red tinge due to radiation processing its surface methane into hydrocarbons, and this also explains the acceleration. It will be due to outgassing of the nitrogen ice abundant on such worlds. That would still act like a jet, but should be invisible. Now, this may well not be the correct or the entire explanation, but it does make it very clear that there are perfect...
Bro, all I'm saying is you're going out of your way to try to tell us that it's not aliens. I hear you chant, but there's just certain things that I saw Independence Day, bro. Like, they came, they blew up New York City. Like, I was here. You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about right now? I saw Men in Black. What are we talking about? Both Will Smith movies. You know what I'm saying? But those weren't really movies. They were documentaries. But they just try to pass them off as movies. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Third eye open, baby.
Plausible, natural explanations for Oumuamua. Tabby's star is another good example. Perhaps you recall the crazily dimming star discovered by Tabitha Boyajian. Some declared that it's best explained by an alien megastructure eclipsing the star's light. That claim was on the strength that no known natural phenomena easily explained the observations. Since then, new observations have shown that the obscuring stuff filters the star's light in a way consistent with clouds of particulates, space dust, rather than an opaque object. So we're probably looking at a tidally disrupted exoplanet or an evaporating exomoon. Okay, so all of this is a bit of a bummer if you really want it to be aliens. Let's get to some hints that don't yet have satisfactory natural explanations. Many of you have heard of the WOW signal. This was a weird spike of radio emission detected by the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University. There was one idea that a pair of comets were in the radio beam at the time, but the Ohio State astronomers insist that those comets were not in the beam at all. No other straightforward, generally accepted explanation has emerged, nor has such a signal ever been seen again. Or has it? On April 29th, 2019, the Parkes Radio Telescope in Australia was studying the flare activity of Proxima Centauri, our nearest stellar neighbour. a sharp spike of radio emission appeared at 982.002 MHz and then drifted upwards in frequency over a 3-hour observation. This weird signal was only spotted more than a year after the observations when a student working with the Breakthrough Listen project was reanalyzing the data. Now, there are lots of non-alien sources of radio frequency blips, mostly human-made noise, but Breakthrough Listen has detailed protocols for sifting out these false signals. According to their program, this is one of the few candidates that so far eludes natural explanation. This one is especially exciting because Proxima Cen was also recently shown to have a planetary system, including a nearly Earth-mass planet in its habitable zone where liquid water is possible. Now, the Breakthrough Listen program hasn't published its findings, so we can't say much. We know that the increase in frequency is consistent with the Doppler shift of something accelerating towards us, an invading fleet of Proximans perhaps? Or more plausibly, from the motion of a planet around the star. Now, there are very good reasons to think that this signal isn't aliens. For example, Proxima is a dangerously active red dwarf. It's unlikely that any planetary atmosphere could survive its outbursts. It's also so close. If there's a technological civilization on Proxima, that would suggest that there are many billions of them through the Milky Way, and many of them millions of years ahead of us, which means we should.
Or maybe because it's the closest star to us, we're direct descendants of them because they actually wound up colonizing a bunch of other stars and solar systems near that solar system, and they just came, dropped us off like the Kryptonians did with Kal-El, and then dipped off on their mission. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we didn't originate from here, and we actually Alpha Centaurians. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Come on, Vlad. Fuck that, nigga. I got this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Come on.
Should have seen ample evidence by now. More likely, this signal has a human source that somehow sneaked through the Breakthrough Listen protocols, or is a natural source that we just don't know about yet. Or it could be aliens, but no one's claiming aliens just yet. The fact is, no matter how long we study the universe, it will always come up with natural phenomena that we've never seen before. So does that mean we can never conclude the existence of aliens based on any observation? Should we not even bother looking? Well, not at all. I personally think that SETI programs should be robustly funded and that we should actively pursue the "it's aliens" hypothesis when warranted. The question is, when do you run to the press shouting that it's aliens? Because you know the press is going to go crazy over that, which is probably why you ran to the press in the first place. Perhaps the more useful question for most of us, though, is when do we believe some new hint or claim of the detection of alien life? Well, that's easier to answer. Optimistic skepticism is always the way to go. Believe me, if it is aliens, the evidence will mount. Most scientists do want it to be aliens more than anyone and will vigorously jump on board when it really does become more likely aliens than not aliens. But currently, it's not aliens. However, planned missions to Mars, Europa, Venus, and even the Alpha Centauri system may finally prove that we're not the only living denizens in all of space-time. As always, our deepest thanks to all of our patrons.
Yeah, man, I won't lie to you. It's aliens, dog. They all around us. You know what I'm saying? And don't let them get in your way. Don't let them twist your mind up, because we gonna find them aliens, and if they cool, you know what I'm saying, then they could rock with us. If not, it's get down to lay down. But anyway, leave a comment in the comment section if you like this video. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think aliens exist? Where they at? You know what I'm saying? Are they up the block, down the block, across the street? Let me know. My name is Rain. Catch you on the flip side. RCP salutes. With the left? Never. Dab on them.